This episode of Capes and Lunatics is brought to you by Tweaked Audio. Get awesome headphones, go to tweakedaudio.com and use the coupon code Southgate to get 30% off, free shipping, and a lifetime warranty. Or you can get there through the link on our website, southgatemediagroup.com.
Hi, heroes. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is my skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Yes, welcome back to Season 2 of The Devil You Know, in which we will talk about Season 3, because I was realizing that we've never actually done Season 1 yet on The Devil You Know.
Really?
Really, we've never done Season 1 of The Devil You Know, I don't believe.
Wow.
I believe we started with Season 2 with Elektra.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that, and I was like, did we ever do Season 1? Because I remember Season 1 started, and I guess I think the original people, I forget exactly what happened, but we needed someone to do it. I said, I'll do it, and thus,
Yeah.
The Devil You Know was...
Because I think what happened was when Luke Cage came out, the person who was supposed to or was doing them before didn't want to do it anymore because Luke Cage wasn't that good and they were not enthralled by the idea of doing it. And then we said, well, you said you want to do it? I said, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then we started doing that, and that's how it started. But, man, it's crazy. I don't even know if it would be fair to go back and do that one now because our expectations and idea of what the landscape of what these shows are supposed to look like is so different because of this show that if we go back it would just seem like run of the mill, but it started the mill, you know?
Well, exactly. I mean, there's stuff to go back to. Actually, I think didn't we start with the Jones cast, and then we did. Hey, I think we did Jones cast, then Luke Cage,
maybe,
and then we came into. I remember that someone didn't want to do the Daredevil because someone had did the first season of Daredevil, and they didn't want to do the second season of Daredevil, and then we jumped in and did that. I forget. This was all years ago. Rob Southgate, I'm sure, remembers, but then again, maybe he doesn't. He doesn't remember that he was on the very first episode of Superconductivity. The man is a busy man, so.
Indeed.
Anyway, let's get back to this episode. So welcome back to The Devil You Know, loyal listeners. If you've missed us, I now have a Fu Manchu, and Mozz is still my skinny rich friend.
And we've missed you too.
Yes, and we have missed you too. Tonight's episode, Resurrection, Season 3, Episode 1. Shattered physically and spiritually, Matt rethinks his purpose and place in Hell's Kitchen. Meanwhile, Fisk puts a plan in motion from behind bars. Mark Jobst is our director. And for our Marvel writing credits, of course, you got to start off with Stan, the man himself, Lee. Stanley Lieber, and good old Bill Everett, who did the art for the original Daredevil, good old black and yellow. Drew Goddard gets our created by credit, along with Eric Olson gets our written by, or Olison gets our written by, Tanya King, our story editor, and hardest working uncredited woman in show business, Sarah Streeter. She is our staff writer, but she went uncredited this episode.
Oh, boy.
Oh, that's, she works so hard, and what thanks does she get? Nothing. How dare they? How dare you, Netflix? Anyway, so some great imagery at the start of this, as we see the angel falling to earth, or the devil falling to earth.
Right, but it sort of glosses over the fact that they don't give you any idea of how he escaped.
Yeah, no, well, none at all.
Right, it's pretty fire. Look, he just there was a tunnel, a magic tunnel that led to the water, and then he crawled a little bit, and that's how he got out.
I thought he kind of fell from inside, or he was like up above, because it seemed like he was falling wherever he was.
Right.
And you can make an argument, if there's all this fire and whatnot, that he might have survived a high fall because of updrafts.
But weren't they in the basement?
Well, yeah, they were. And I didn't realize that until you just mentioned that. So, oh, yeah. What's he falling from?
what in the world is happening? Unless maybe their last ditch effort was to take like one of those like, trolleys up to the roof to try to escape or what. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll say that's what he did. Who's going to check?
I hope throughout the rest of these episodes we sort of get a better explanation for how this happened.
I'm gonna break your heart.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna thank you,
but never speak of it again.
Right. At least I know now not to get annoyed by it later. So that's good.
It's like,
all right, good. No, that's good. That serves a purpose.
It is just one of those things where due to his amazing superpowers, he naturally escaped unharmed.
And even that, honestly, if the rest of the show is as good as it looks like it's going to be, I'm not going to mind.
Yeah, this is a very nice, this is a very nice series. I really think if Daredevil was going to go out, this was a great way to go out. I'm, sad that Daredevil is going out officially after this, or this is off the air for 2 years, but. You know what? It goes well and it starts off interesting. I gotta say this, Daredevil is such a whiny man. I mean, it's just like, his whole thing about Job was an expletive. And it's just like, no, and of course, Sister Maggie calls him out on that. It's like, all these kids, look at them trying to, what cowards out there in the real world. Well, they could be hiding in a basement like you. And this has bothered me, like the whole, because he's sitting there, he's feeling sorry for himself. He's like, I'd rather, and really, he's a little inconsistent in his sorrowfulness because it's like, I'd rather die as Daredevil than live as Matt Murdock. But at the same time, it's like, but I can never be Daredevil again because I can't see and I can't hear and all my powers are betrayed me.
I think what it is all those little things to be miserable about are just like sprinkles on the sundae. Like the heartache and the pain is really from losing Elektra. Like everybody is completely inconsolable and completely illogical after a breakup. You know what I mean? It does. So I don't think he's in his right mind, and that's where the dull ache is pulsating from. And every time it encounters some other reason to be upset, it amplifies that and gives him another reason to dwell in his drama.
Oh, and now you made me feel sorry for Matt Murdock.
Right. So it's like he just has to fight his way out. He swam and through a fire. He just got to fight his way out.
I know, but then it just annoyed me that he like one day hot later and he's like, "Oh, I'm back,"
yeah.
Or that he's back, but then he's not going to actually try to take care of himself in any way. He's immediately going to try and mess himself up worse. And when he does that whole attempted suicide scene,
right? Good Lord.
Yeah, it was like, who are you, Daredevil?
Yeah.
What are you afraid of, man without fear, is what I would say.
He's afraid of having to still keep trying. He's tired of trying, I think.
Well, but the thing is, he doesn't have to. I mean, that's the weird thing about it. It's like they said, you're you're a handsome, physically fit lawyer. What are you complaining about?
And I think, again, it comes back to the illogicalness of what, loss of romance does to a person's brain.
But, Karen's just waiting for him. That's all I'm going to say.
That's true.
I'm going to say, honestly, him and Elektra, that was passion, but passion always burns out.
Right.
That's the thing, is passion is sweet, but it does not pay the rent on your apartment waiting for you to come home like a Karen Page does. That's what I'm going to say.
See, his relationship with Elektra could only have gone in that way because she was so scatterbrained and so crazy and so sort of impulsive that she could never have what she really wanted, which was forever with Matt Murdock.
Well,
but
yeah.
forever would mean that she would never have time to stray, and then she always wanted to stray. So in a situation where they knew they were going to die, this is the only way she could secure forever with Matt Murdock. And to her, that was the only way that was going to work.
Yeah.
But somehow he skated in and out of that situation and still has, the possibility of a Karen page. That's crazy.
Yeah, he's had, not for nothing, he's still got the possibility of Elektra.
Yeah, who knows? He survived, right?
Yeah,
so,
well, not for nothing, Elektra's got, all that hand juice in her,
Right.
So
that's
she just,
true.
just like Mitchum, if you don't take off the head, you just get up a couple days later and eat fried chicken.
Yeah. Well, maybe if that's the case, hopefully Elektra got it out of her system and now she can leave him alone.
Yeah, maybe. Well, they do say you become more dispassionate as each time you return because more and more of your soul gets left behind.
True.
But that actually could just mean that she'll be more manipulative of Matt and exploit his...
oh, good God.
Yeah, well, that's how it goes, man. There's no easy answers sometimes.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway.
Has there ever been a villain who was reformed? Or because all these superheroes keep letting these villains go and say, there's hope for you yet, or whatever you're going to be. Has there ever been a villain that is reformed?
Oh, well, the Sandman from Spider-Man. I mean, he becomes more of an anti-hero merc at times. He's never really gone full-on superhero. The only person that I know of who has gone full-on superhero from full-on supervillain would be Dr. Octopus, who is now the superior Spider-Man.
What? Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. So Dr. Octopus, in his, last great villain thing, he, quote-unquote, switched bodies with Peter Parker, where he basically overwrote Peter Parker's brain with his own brain, and then overwrote his own brain with Peter Parker's brain, so that Peter Parker was in Otto, and Otto was in Peter Parker, and then Otto's body died, and Peter Parker died, but then Peter Parker was still in Otto's brain, because it was technically Peter Parker's brain, and then eventually Otto wipes himself out of Peter Parker, but then he also had made a backup of his brain, which wound up in the living robot, who then hangs out with because he's in love with this girl, Maria Marconi, who's the super genius short lady, and now he has just gotten himself a brand new clone body that's half Otto Octavius, half Peter Parker, all superior. And now he's back as the superior Spider, because he was the superior Octopus for a while, but now he's the superior Spider-Man. So, yeah.
Wow, that is fascinating.
It's a great book. And he actually is, he's still very much a supervillain, but he is trying to be a supervillain for justice and good. So he has that.
All right.
He has that
supervillain. So maybe there was one reformed supervillain.
Yeah.
Right, but it sort of forces me to question whether, this whole ideal of not killing bad guys serves any purpose.
Well, honestly, it's like anybody else. It's like, do you kill every criminal? Do you kill someone for double parking? Sometimes you want to, but you shouldn't. And
right.
So there's a lot. There's a lot of bank robber. There's a lot of supervillains who don't kill people. There's a lot of supervillains who are just bank robbers who rob stuff, who don't really necessarily want to kill people.
Right. And those are not the questions you want to ask society.
Yeah, exactly. And not for nothing, it's not a superhero's place to kill the supervillain.
Right.
Honestly, if the state wants to put a needle in a supervillain's arm, like, for example, Davos, for those of you who remember the last episode of the Ironcast, I'm watching, I'm thinking, we got the death penalty in New York, and he killed a whole bunch of people. Like a whole bunch of people in front of witnesses. And so, he could very easily get a needle in the arm for that.
Have they ever explored that dynamic in comics ever?
What, people being put to death by the state?
Yeah, like at what point is it like, okay, we really should like eliminate this person from,
I'm sure there have been supervillains that have been sentenced to death by the state, but they usually escape before they do, because it is still a kids medium, so you don't want them actually seeing someone get murdered by the state. But I'm sure it has been. One of the biggest problems with some supervillains is, you just have that question of how do we actually kill them? Because, not for nothing, that was the big thing with getting the Iron Fist back from Davos. It was less about getting the Iron Fist back and more like, no prison will be able to hold this guy.
Right.
Which, of course, isn't really actually true, but he probably would have gotten out of Rikers before they could send him to the icebox, especially since S.H.I.E.L.D. is, like, officially defunct and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
They used to have places to put people like Davos. They don't have them anymore. But yes, getting back to this show.
Yes, indeed. So what is the deal with this the priest guy? I think like when he comes and keeps trying to egg him on to do a confession, he's looking for something. What do you think that is?
Well, he's trying to get him to reconnect with his spirituality.
Do you think that's just that simple and there's no ulterior motive? Because it seems really pointed, like he wants him to start talking, to tell him something.
Well, I think he wants him. I mean, I think what he wants is he wants Matt to deal with his baggage, not to just run away or to, basically, the whole point of religion is to give you a focus to move your life forward. To have you say, this is our ritual. And as he says, she's the most rational crank in the diocese, I mean, like, he's not saying take the communion and, be one with the body of Christ and all that kind of stuff. Although, that's truly an interpretation you can take. What he's really saying is participate in this ritual and open yourself up to what you need to let out of you. You need to deal with your demons, and the only way to deal with your demons is to
name them.
Well, to name them, yeah. To know the demon's name and cast it out. And you do that through language. You do that through talking about what you're going through, and that's the point of confession. Because there's clearly stuff weighing on, and really he can see there's stuff weighing on Matt, and he's saying, Matt, talk to me about it. Talk to me about what you need. And the whole idea of taking communion is that it is about connecting with someone. It is the communion. But also, there is that aspect that you are supposed to, prior to taking communion, you do always ask for forgiveness, You say, because they just changed it. I can't remember the new words, but it's like, Lord, I'm not worthy, but really say the word.
Repentance?
Well, it's like, it's like, Lord, I am not worthy to welcome you into my house, but only say the word and my soul shall be healed. And, and it's just this idea of, you need to heal. And as he says later, when Sister Maggie says, heal the body and the spirit will follow. And, the priest says it's the other way around.
Yeah, and I sit here thinking, like, what is he afraid to confront here in this moment? And then it occurs to me that, if you deal with something and if you heal it, then it's done. You're done with that moment. You're done with that emotion. And he's still holding on to Elektra, so he doesn't want to let go of that. He's like, can I have a moment to just mourn and grieve this situation? Leave me alone for a second.
Well, except that he doesn't. I mean, and I think that's the real problem, is he doesn't want to be left alone. Because that's the thing. It's like he either wants to sit in squalor, or the minute he gets any kind of sensation back, one neti pot later, and then he's out on the street trying to have suicide by thug,
Yeah.
We always hear about suicide by cop, but you never hear about suicide by thug. And I bet you suicide by thug's a lot more common. Someone who just sticks themselves into a dangerous situation expressly because, if nothing else, they get to go out in a blaze of glory,
Right.
And it's an interesting thing that he does here, and especially because it's actually impeding his healing process because he's got the tinnitus, and that is not as much of a joke as you might think, especially if you keep on aggravating the injury that's giving you the tinnitus. That's the ringing in the ears.
Right.
It's a very selfish act, and that's the thing. I think what there is maybe in this is this recognition by the priest and by Maggie that Matt is in a place to do something very selfish, to take his own life without concern for how that's going to affect the world. And they see that he's hurting, but they want to find a way to help him communicate. And I think that's what that's about. That's my take on it. I don't know, but yeah, I mean.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense, and I'm glad that he has good people around him that are gently coaxing him back to himself.
Yeah, well, yeah, as gently as he'll let them. Yes.
Right.
I thought that was a very neat aspect of it when we get the flashback of Karen and Matt. When he sort of reveals himself, and then he says, "I'm done with the costume," and then he's done with that costume. And really, he tried his best to stick to it, because he doesn't wear the costume until the very end of the Defenders, and now he's out of the costume again. And I don't remember if we ever see him in the costume this whole episode,
No.
I mean, not this episode. I mean, he wears his old costume, but, I don't think we ever see him in a costume the whole rest of the series. I could be wrong.
Interesting.
But I think that he, but yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's a very, very interesting take on that because, like I said, it's a lot of self-pity, a lot of wallowing, and then you compare that to our other two stories, which include Kingpin's story, which, I love. It's kind of a cliche scene, I think, of the one guy in prison as he's trying to eat, and there's all the rowdy, and then he just says, "Quiet!" And everyone's like, "Oh, sorry, Mr. Kingpin."
Yeah. I don't know, but I bought it.
You bought it?
I bought it because to me it made sense because even like in the beginning, like in the first season, you couldn't mention his name,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's like he does have the reputation of being like a very, very powerful, a very scary, and very respected person.
Yes.
So to me, I bought it. And even the last time he was in jail, it's sort of like, like even when he got here, he had to like prove himself. And boy, did he ever,
Oh, yeah. Well, because he is the Kingpin. And
and it's not a joke. He doesn't need any of his connect. He's just in his personal will. Yeah. He can do pretty much anything. So I bought that. That didn't seem outlandish to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't think it was outlandish. I just felt that it's a scene we've seen before.
Yeah.
A scene that is,
Yeah.
It's a cliched scene, although I think it does work well for it here.
Yeah.
And what I really loved is this dichotomy between his old world, where he's chopping, you see him making himself his omelet, which I believe again, something that was emphasized in the first season with the Kingpin, him cooking himself this omelet, this very
interesting.
Yeah, and what I love here is that here he is, and again he's eating this. You see that he's got a little hot plate in his cell, because he's fancy, and you see he's got his little omelet and all this kind of stuff, and he just pushes it away.
Right, and you know what the funny part is? They use two different omelets there, because there was the first one he makes and flips out onto the plate, looks very different than the second omelet they use in a different scene. So I don't know if like he just ate that one and they got him another one or what, but there was two different omelets.
Well, I mean, the first one you see is one that's from his memory.
Oh!
So the one that, like, you see him when he's chopping up this stuff and he makes the omelet and he puts it. That's his
I didn't
memory.
even catch that it was. Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, yeah, because you'll see he has, like, the big the big knife that the
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. I didn't even pay attention. You're right. He's got like a nice cutting board. Yeah.
And they pan back, he's got a little plastic spork that he has.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. So wow. Right. That's cool.
Yeah, it's probably powdered eggs he had to use too. So
that's really cool that they did that.
Yeah, and they're trying, and what they're showing is that no matter how luxurious his confines may be as a made man mob boss, and those of you who ever saw Goodfellas, they have the whole thing about the made men in prison, and they got they're making their spaghetti, putting sugar in their sauce. That's just a way to show that they're really not that traditional.
No. Yeah. Their wives probably did most of the cooking, and what they're doing is probably like a sad parody of what their moms and their wives did.
Yes. Anyway, but still, you have the idea that he's cooking in his prison, but it's nowhere near. It's not right, and it is not what he wants. And then we have the whole thing with Mariana, how the government is trying to put Mariana in, basically indict Mariana as a co-conspirator, which he is not having. And then we get, oh man, I forgot his name. Our latest
agent Sundeep, something like that.
Yeah. Our Indian American agent.
Yeah. And I love the time and the care they took to tell that part of the story, like how they fleshed out his stresses and his pressures and that character. I really dug. This is what I love about this show, that they care to do subtle things like this, like the omelet, or the care they take to present this small piece of the story. Maybe not so small going forward, but I mean, like, other shows I don't think would have taken the care to make that as believable as they did here.
And although I always get this thing about this, because we have our agent going in, and because obviously he's very strapped for cash, and he's very, very desperate to take care of his family, and we find out that he has not gotten a
promotion or a raise
in 3.5 years. Basically, as long as his sister's been sick, we're led to imply. And the thing is that then they send him to go talk to the Kingpin. And I always feel in this that's like the exact worst place to put it. Telling him you can't get a promotion because you're a prime compromised subject. Why don't you go talk to this super powerful gangster that we've got locked up?
Oh my God! Absolutely, jeez, man. You're right. That is pretty silly.
Well, they played it up like this is tough detail because he's never going to flip. But even if he doesn't flip, doesn't mean he isn't looking to exploit a person on the outside. So I'm not
right.
I'm not quite sure how I follow that, but that's what.
Yeah, you're right.
And for what it's worth, as luck would have it, that's the day that he seems to have had enough.
Yeah.
And reaches out to say, there are things I want. What can you give me? Because he is worried about sweet, sweet Mariana. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting take where we end it, because you are left thinking that maybe there's something more going on here. I'm not 100% certain yet. It is interesting though, however it works. But I'm looking forward to see where this story goes. I mean, I know where the story goes because I've seen it all.
Because if they're giving us like his Achilles heel right off the bat, and they're sort of stripping him of sort of his power in a way, unless, like, I hope he has a broader plan for something, and it's not just that he's just showing his hand and being the weaker. I'm sure they're not.
No, yeah. I mean, in fact, I can say, you can rest assured that there's plenty of classic Kingpin to come.
Right.
Don't judge the first episode by who. Don't assume who everyone is based only on the first episode. because there's a lot of stuff that's going to flip around as the story goes, and that's what makes it a good story. This is really, like I said, I think that this winds up being a really great, a great finale, for Daredevil. What we get out of this episode, out of this season. And this episode, I think it starts it off really well. I mean, like I said, we get very whiny. Daredevil gets very whiny, but you know what? That's okay. It's all part of where we're going. So, yeah. So that's my take on it. Mozz, any final thoughts for tonight's episode?
No, it's that scene was cool where they brought the boxer in to like box him up a little bit.
Yeah.
To maybe teach him like, hey, you're not ready, but it really had no effect.
Well, I mean, I don't know exactly what they were trying to do with that, except I think they were trying to get to sort of move beyond where he's at. I think that one of the biggest problems with that is that, the man needs to heal, and he's not really taking his time to heal.
See, I thought maybe their point was to say, hey, obviously, clearly you're not ready.
Oh, yeah, actually, I kind of took it as the exact opposite. That I think the priest felt that he wasn't ready, but, Sister Maggie said, no, this is what... That's my take anyway.
And she was kind of excited about it. She was like, yeah, it's kind of cool to see it in person.
Exactly. Well, hey,
And she was proud of him.
Well, she has her reasons to be. It's a very interesting story as this all progresses. But
right.
Anyway, so that is our story. Mozz, if you would like to talk more Daredevil and the devils how can they find you?
Well, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com. That's MOZZMANZOOR. Or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor.
Okay, and of course you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way the way our Mozz and Poz once did at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitters as I live tweet whenever I feel like, whenever I feel like, at Charlie. That's CharlieEssesser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
Bing!
For quality. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for joining us in the kitchen of hell. And as you face your demons, always remember, the devil is right behind you. Good night.